everyone's benefit. You on? Right. So for today, we'll briefly look at what the SuccessFactors release management approach is. We're going to be looking at 3 modules today: platform, talent and learning, and stories and people analytics. Actually, that makes it 4. And we're going to be looking at key features that have been released by SuccessFactors across 2 releases, the second half of last year and the first half of this year. We're going to then end with what the Deloitte release management offering is for those customers who are interested in signing up. We already have customers who work with us in this space, and we will then conclude with that. Across the session, if you have any questions, feel free to put it into the Q&A section of the Zoom session so that we would take those questions away and then provide responses to them when we distribute the recording and the deck, just like we've been doing in the past Spotlight sessions. Many of you are aware, SuccessFactors has a periodic release of new features, and these are dropped into your customer environments across the year. Yeah, so some of you may have something what is known as an early release test instance, and some may not. Those of you who have an early release test instance or a preview instance, then it indicates that you will be able to receive these features typically a month before it hits production. Yeah. Customers who are not on early release will receive their new features on their test or development environments at the same time as they receive it on production. Now, up until 2019, SuccessFactors maintained a quarterly release schedule, so the drops would happen every quarter. That has changed from last year, where the drop only happens twice a year. And where we are sitting right now, the H1 drop has already happened for those customers who have an early release, and the H1 drop will happen in your production environment in a couple of days. When it comes to release management, SuccessFactors categorizes its features into 2 buckets, okay? Universal and optional. The universal features are automatically turned on in your system, and you're ready to use it with very minimal configuration. You may need to permission it for end users to use those capabilities, but as such, you don't need any major consulting effort from a partner or from SuccessFactors support to enable them. Optional features, on the other hand, need some amount of effort either from the customer's administration team or from the partner or SAP to take action to adopt the feature. Yep, so they primarily fall into buckets. And when you see the release notes from SAP, they categorize the configuration type either as universal or opt-in. So with that introduction, I am happy to hand over to my first colleague, which is Josh Stonk, who will be taking us through the key features across platform. Now, what you'll be seeing across the session is some key important features. We're not covering all the features, but this is to give you an understanding and appetite as to what are the key enhancements that SuccessFactors has made available across these 2 releases. Over to you, Josh.
Excellent. Thanks, Eddie. I will take control of the screen share. And hopefully everybody can now see my screen. So as Eddie said, my name's Josh, and I'm going to be running through some of the H2 2020 and H1 2021 platform release features. Before I start, I think it's worth noting with these features that I'm going to run through today being platform-wide that they'll impact all customer instances, regardless of what modules you have implemented. And not only that, but it's great for my ego because it means that it's relevant for everyone, regardless of where you sit within your HR function. So with that in mind, let's jump in. So we're going to start with the new homepage. And this new homepage feature came out in H2 2020. And essentially it's SAP's way to make the user experience simpler and more engaging for end users. But rather than talk to this slide, I thought it would be better to jump into our demo environment to show the latest homepage. So what I'm going to do is look at the current homepage to start off with. And the reason for that will kind of become apparent very soon. And hopefully everyone's quite familiar with this view at the moment. So I'm currently logged in as Anya Singh, who has the current homepage available on her profile. And I'm going to proxy in as a demo user, James Klein, who has the latest homepage enabled on his profile. And so the reason I wanted to start kind of with the current homepage was to show a side-by-side comparison to start off with. but also to call out and demonstrate that it's possible to control who does and doesn't see the new homepage based on their role-based permissions. So this means you can enable the new homepage for a subset of permissioned users rather than the whole organization in one go. At the top of the new homepage, you'll see a configurable welcome banner, which is intended to reflect your organization's brand. And below this, you'll see the quick action section where users can complete their most frequently or importantly used actions. And depending on the type of action, a user might be able to complete this directly on screen via a popover window without the need to necessarily navigate to that section of the system. So a good example of this is a time off request. If I'm looking to go on leave sometime soon, I can click the request time off quick action, and that'll bring up a popover window to quickly kind of put a leave request in directly from that homepage without having to navigate to the time off portion of the system. This is only applicable for some of the quick actions. Other ones will navigate you to that part of the system. It depends on how, I suppose, quick and easy the action is to complete. Below this quick action section, you can see the survey section, which allows you to send pulse surveys out to users. This is particularly useful if you've got integrations with Qualtrics, but works with other survey tools like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey as well. So in this example, I've linked out to a Google form, and I can open that up in a new window where a user can go in and complete a contact information form, for example, or whatever survey needs to be completed. And finally, down the bottom, we can see this organizational updates section. And this is very similar to the custom tiles on the legacy homepage. And they can be configured to link to other parts of the system, et cetera, just like you would with the legacy homepage. So one thing you'll notice is that James doesn't actually have any to-do actions available directly on the homepage. And this is one of the biggest changes, I suppose, in the new homepage, whereby the key actions that James has to complete are dynamically generated only if they're deemed high priority and relevant to the user based on predefined SAP business logic. And it's actually not possible to configure the type of to-dos that appear directly on the homepage. Having said that, all of James's pending actions can actually be actioned by clicking this to-do icon up the top. So something to consider from a change impacts perspective if you do go down the path of implementing the new homepage. The other key change from the legacy homepage is the inability to display tiles and workforce analytics reports on the homepage. So they'd need to be accessed through a reporting quick action if the user had the relevant permissions. So that's the new homepage in a nutshell. So I'm going to quickly jump back across to the slide deck. Before moving on, the other call out I'd like to make on the new homepage is that it's currently an admin opt-in bit of functionality, but SAP have stated that the legacy homepage will reach end of maintenance as of this release, and it'll be deprecated as of the H1 2022 release, so May next year. And so I suppose in terms of future proofing, it's worthwhile exploring the new homepage functionality now before it becomes mandatory, as SAP have indicated, in 12 months' time. So the next bit of functionality I wanted to talk through is the configuration center. And this is intended as a new modernized UI for simplified transport of configuration between instances. So this performs a similar function to the instance synchronization wizard currently used to move configuration between instances. It's also worth noting here that it'll allow transporting of EC, talent management, and people profile configurations, but it doesn't support the full gamut of configuration transports that the instance synchronization wizard supports. But unlike the instance sync wizard, it also allows you to view and download application configuration as well as performing those transports. So the final thing to note with the configuration center is that it's not capable of triggering full instance refreshes. So refreshing a test environment with all data and configuration from production, for example. The instance sync tool is still a must for this kind of instance refresh. But config copies transports can be achieved through the configuration center or the instance synchronization wizard, depending on the business requirements for the time being. SAP haven't yet made it clear whether what the end state is for configuration center, whether it will replace the instance sync wizard or whether they'll be used in tandem, but it's definitely functionality worth understanding. and access to the configuration center can be enabled via an RBP update. So the next item I wanted to talk about is time-based proxy assignments. And this is something that a lot of customers have been asking for quite a long time. So proxy assignments can now be granted for a predefined time period. So this means that a user granted proxy rights can have those rights end dated at the time they're actually granting the rights. So for example, prior to going on a leave of absence, I can set up my proxy assignment to coincide with the start and end date of that absence. This update will be universally applied to all instances in the H1 2021 release. So if proxy management is enabled in your environment, this feature will be available with the new release. But it's worth noting that the assignment of these start and end dates for a proxy assignment is not actually mandatory. So you still will be able to set proxy rights to another user with no end date if the person granting the proxy rights so chooses. The final bit of platform functionality I wanted to touch on today is peer and manager RBP target populations. So permission roles can now be granted with a target population of manager or peers. So essentially what this means is that a target population for a permission role of users with the same manager. So I can see and do, essentially defining what I can see and do to my peers within the organization, or a target population of the user's manager, i.e. what I can see and do to my managers or supervisors in the organization. So this wasn't achievable previously without some pretty complicated RBP setups of named users in target populations, or by defining specific levels within the organization, both of which came with some drawbacks. And access to this feature will be universal as part of the H1 2021 release, but obviously it will require configuration changes to permission roles to actually enable this on some of those permission roles themselves. So that's the quick run through of the platform functionality. We're gonna look at talent next. So Kat, I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Josh. That was awesome. Let me just share my screen. Okay, hopefully you could see that presentation. Again, good afternoon and good morning to everyone. My name is Kat Espina, and I'll be going through today the key features for talent. First up would be the latest version of goal management. Let me just move this a little bit, sorry. All right, so the redesigned goal experience was delivered by SuccessFactors for customers like you to bring together the display of both the performance and development goals in one screen, right? Goals are displayed using a modern card design layout, as what you see on the screenshot on the right. Why we see this important is due to the ease of navigation. Obviously, you will no longer need to navigate between different areas of the application. All your goals will be accessible in one area of application and on the same view, okay? With that 3-button, I'll be going through the system shortly. There is also some buttons for you to be available to click to view additional information and details about your goal. With this new card design layout, it makes it easier for your user to consume that information, to get insights and make the necessary changes. All right, so let's go through the instance quite quickly. Okay, so this is an example, or this is the new UI version of that goal management piece. What you see here on top is the performance goal and development goals together on one screen. From here, it doesn't change. You will still see your previous goal plans available in here. What has changed drastically here is that all your goals are filtered based on status. So as you can see here, if I click on the goals that are on track, I have 2 there. I'll see both of those goals. It is easier now for me to change the status of the goal via that page without having to go through and drilling down within that goal as well. Okay, from here, I'll be able to create goals as well. Okay, with this new design as well, you'll be able to create activities in CPM directly from the page, right? So you don't need to navigate to continuous performance management if you're using that to enter an activity, update the status, and align that activity into a goal. Okay. Going back to my slides, what are the things? So first and foremost, this is an admin opt-in. You need to enable this in your instance for you to be able to use that. Things to watch out for with this new version of goal management is that it can only be integrated with the latest version of CPM. So if you decide to enable this latest version of goal management and you are using CPM, you need both to be on the same version, okay? When you are converting or enabling the new version of goal management, you need to convert your existing goal plans into the new templates as well, and to review unsupported fields. There are quite a number of limitations still with this latest version of goal management, such as it doesn't support yet the beta goal import. Some of those are changing goal plan states within the goal plans are still not yet supported. So watch out for this space because there are some substantial limitations to this latest version. It may be premature at this stage to upgrade to this, but at least it's worthwhile for us all to anticipate how the goal management is evolving and changing to gain a better understanding of how modules connect with each other and how modules are tightly integrated with each. Okay, next up would be the latest version of continuous performance management is now available for you to use as well, and you can upgrade to this using the Upgrade Center. So what CPM is about is that it provides you a platform to better track and manage your performance efforts, showing activities towards goals, their achievements, and ongoing conversation between employees, managers, and other roles as well in the organization. Okay, so CPM provides you with the ability for your users to give feedback, to request for feedback, and to receive continuous feedback throughout or from others throughout the organization. Okay, with the latest version of CPM, this also comes with several new features, which I will go through in the next couple of slides. This latest version of CPM is also available in iOS and Android devices, as well as some supported browsers on your phone or your tablet devices. Okay, as you can see on the screenshot on the right, this is also using a streamlined user interface. Okay, with the activities default page, as you can see here, it is following a bin view UI where you can drag and drop your activities into different buckets of statuses as well. Okay, again, this is an opt-in feature where you could use the Upgrade Center to upgrade to this new version. Okay, so going back to this, okay, so you'll see continuous performance management in this demo environment. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the bin view where you could drag and drop all your activities into different buckets. You can start meeting, you can add your achievements from here as well. And on the left-hand side, if you have the rep reports, you'll be able to see their activities that they are working on as well. Okay. Things to watch out for when you're enabling the latest version of CPM is that once it is enabled, you can't go back anymore to the previous version. Okay, so there's no going back here once it is enabled. For new customers enabling CPM for the first time, you will get this new version by default. There isn't an option for you to use the old version of CPM. Okay, and with this latest version as well, it no longer supports the CPM notification jobs, which we typically schedule from the back end, right? Whenever you do an update or when you click a button within the screen, it will automatically send the email notification without having the need to set up that job from the back end. Okay, again, aligned with the latest version of CPM is the feedback redesign that comes in the second half 2020 release. So continuous feedback offers now a more guided question-based approach when it comes to giving or requesting feedback. When requesting or giving feedback, users provide a topic or a questions that they would want to ask that feedback provider. Okay, questions comes out of the box and can be configured by an administrator. Okay, the latest version of CPM and this feedback functionality allows users to create their own questions as well. With this new experience, it makes it easier for the users to feel comfortable when it comes to responding and giving constructive feedback for a specific topic. Okay, so this is important to help our users provide clear, relevant, and actionable feedback. With the new card design layout with filtering capabilities helps your user manage and find feedback more efficiently. Okay. It provides context to better understand the feedback that is given, as well as it's easier for the end user to just consume that information. Okay. This feedback redesign is an admin opt-in, and you need to be on the latest version of CPM for you to be able to use that particular feature. And some settings will need to be enabled in the admin center to enable that continuous feedback option. Okay. Aligned with that feedback redesign is also the new feature that was released very recently, so first half of 2021, whereby the feedback is now integrated with Microsoft Outlook. Okay, so in the latest version of CPM, you can now give continuous feedback from within the Outlook inbox using an add-in. So as you can see here on the right, when a feedback provider has received an email notification, there could now be an option to have that give feedback button directly from Outlook. And once you click on that, the user will need to enter their username and their password to log into SuccessFactors and then answer the feedback and provide feedback, for a particular employee. Okay, so obviously this provides an easier way to provide a feedback. You don't really need to go out of your Outlook to be able to submit a feedback for an employee. All that can be done within the Microsoft Outlook page. Okay, so this is again an admin opt-in. You need to be on the latest version of CPM to be able to get that feature. And some additional settings we need to do when it comes to mapping users into Microsoft Active Directory. So one thing to note with this feedback integration to Microsoft Outlook, those that are using single sign-on, this is not yet supported with this integration. So your users will still need to enter their username as well as their password. Okay. As part of the second half of 2020 release, it is also, or there was also an enhanced continuous performance management, which now allows roles outside of a traditional employee manager hierarchical relationship to use CPM, okay, to use the features and functions of continuous performance management. Okay, so the expansion of this particular functionality for additional roles was driven in part by a customer influence idea. So, and further aided by ongoing conversations with customers. Okay. Um, we find this particular feature important because, as you know, remote work becomes more common, and therefore SAP focused on extending features to allow users to conduct more work tasks online. Many of our users found value in being able to conduct one-on-one meetings with their managers remotely. And many companies nowadays are operating in an agile way with project leads, mentors, and other matrix types roles requiring the need to have an ongoing conversation with their colleagues. And therefore, this multiple role feature was built to support that particular need. Okay. One thing to watch out for when it comes to this is that it is currently, it's not yet possible to report, like ad hoc reporting, on one-on-one meeting conversation between multiple role users. Okay. Okay. One of the major features that was released in the latest first half of 2020 release is that users are now able to add attachment to activities using the latest version of CPM as well. Okay. So users can now add attachment, as you can see on the screenshot on the right. Okay, the default setting in the application allows users to attach up to 5 files against an activity. Users with edit permissions can upload, download, or delete attachments, and users with view permissions can only download a particular attachment from that page. Okay, so this feature was developed to give users the ability to demonstrate how they are progressing and how they are completing their activity. So any supporting documentation is already available or already made available using that attachment feature. Again, this is a customer community idea to have that attachment function in there. Okay. This is an admin opt-in. And again, as part of the new releases of the continuous performance management, the latest version, this comes as part of that. Okay. Things to watch out for when it comes to this is that the storage limit are based on what you have set on a company level. And then attachment cannot be deleted from the activities that have already been archived within a meeting history snapshot. Okay. Enabling administrator to delete feedback. With the current CPM version, there isn't an opportunity for anyone, in fact, in the organization to delete feedback. As you know, a manager can always request feedback about a direct report from another person. And when that employee receives feedback, employee will not be able to delete that one. And also manager will not be able to delete that, as well as admin, right? So with this particular feature, administrators can then search and permanently delete feedback provided by others. Okay, what's good about this is that the administrator cannot view the content of the feedback. So what they could see is only the topic, the date when the feedback was given, who is the giver and who is the receiver. So there is some level of security here whereby that the actual feedback is not visible to the administrator. Okay, so if there are inappropriate feedback or just feedback that are incorrectly given, we would want to have that opportunity to have someone in the organization like an administrator to be able to delete those feedback that are not appropriate for that employee. Okay, so this is again an admin opt-in, and you need to have an administrator permission to delete that continuous feedback. Okay, few things to note when it comes to this is that it's not possible to search by manager who requested for the feedback. You will only be able to search, as I've mentioned earlier, the receiver and who is the giver of that feedback. Okay, once that feedback is deleted from the system, it's deleted permanently. There isn't an option to restore deleted feedback. Okay. The third point here is that if the feedback recipient is already inactive in the system, the administrator can no longer delete the feedback related to that inactive user, simply because when you search for that user within that receiver name box, you will not be able to search for any inactive users. All right. Okay, moving away now from CPM, we now go through the 360 reviews. Okay, so what has come with the 360 review form Fiori version is that with the latest release, first half 2021, the 360 form now supports adding ad hoc approvers when it comes to the route map. Okay, you can also now be able to configure development goals section within the 360 review, which is good in a way that you'll be able to update development goals within the 360 form directly. Okay. The display of data table for a chart on the right-hand side here, you will notice that within a 360 executive review and detailed 360 report, a user may now select a table icon on the chart to see a data table instead of a graphical representation. This provides a text equivalent for non-text content. Okay. The 360 Form Fiori version also now supports Easy Rater, which is a condensed view for rating goals and competencies. Okay. Rather than your users scrolling down on the form and rating individual goals and competencies, you can make use of that Easy Rater to have a condensed view and for ease of rating these goals and competencies. Okay. Some additional features that come out with the Fiori version is the ability to view form history, to view additional information, and the delete option is already available as well. When it comes to print preview, there is now a capability for a user or an opportunity to select various sections of the form in which they want to print. They can select multiple sections, or they can select all of the sections when it comes to printing. And then finally, that stack ranker that you see in a performance form is also now being available in this 360 Fiori version. Okay.
Kat, sorry, just a time check, Kat. Another minute, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Eddie. So with this feature, it's added in the 360 review Fiori version to have that feature parity with the version 11 of 360. Okay, this is a universal release, therefore available to everyone. Okay, now onto my last slide. It comes to succession planning. The main new feature exclusive to succession management is the ability to view nomination history in the talent card and people profile. Users with succession planning permission can click a history icon on the screen to see a list of positions for which the employee has been nominated, and information about nomination history for each position, including the date of the nominator, the readiness level, the status, and the notes, and so on and so forth. Okay, with this new feature, you can easily track who has made changes, why the changes occurred, which nomination was involved, and it also includes deleted nominees to have a full view of that nomination history. Okay, this is an admin opt-in again, and you should have that succession planning permission to be able to view that nomination history. Okay, now moving on to the learning features, I'd like to pass it on to Charmaine to go through the new features for learning. Thank you.
Hi, good day, everyone. So my name is Charmaine, and I'll be going through the learning features for the second half 2020 and first half 2021 release. So one feature that was introduced is in terms of adding new items, the screen has changed again to make it more consistent with the old user interface, where you can put more information at the initial screen when you create a new item. And also it also now allows for you to select the classification as well with the first half 2021 release. So just to show you in the screen, so I'm going to add a new item. So this is what the new screen will look like. So previously, the screen just had limited fields, and you'd have to go through the different tabs of an item to populate most of the information there. But now the item details section will appear, and it will have all the relevant fields you need, including the custom fields if applicable. So here you can see the registration settings. You can already populate assignment section. You can already populate and like what I mentioned earlier, custom fields. And also in the first half 2021 release, this classification will be editable. And depending on what you select, it will pre-populate some of the tabs for you. So if you select instructor-led, it will create the agenda tab for you. If you select online content or online classification, it will populate the online content tab for you. So it will be a more the same design now as what you had in the old user interface. All right. And that feature is universal, by the way. The next one is enhanced navigation. So the change that they have introduced in the latest release is previously you'd have to do an expand all on the learning administration menu and then do a control F and type the keyword. Now there's actually a keyword search bar on top of the menu so that if you type something in there, it will bring up the results for you. Also, previously, you'd have to click on the arrows on the menu on the left side to actually expand a menu path. Now you can click on the text or somewhere in wherever in that line, and it will expand the path for you. So you don't have to be conscious of where the specific location where you tick the menu just to expand it. So that's a very positive change, and it's also universal. Next is program enhancements. So SuccessFactors have made some universal enhancement in terms of programs. So you can now search for programs that belong to certain items, or you can search for items that sit within a program, or you can also search libraries that have specific programs in them. So if I just navigate to the system, so one is if I go to the programs, you can see now there's a filter on the item. So you can actually search, if you want to search programs that contain a specific item, you can do so now. Under items, you can now search items that belong to a specific program. So the programs is now an additional filter. And lastly, the libraries. So you see here, there's also a search filter now for libraries. If it doesn't show up, then it should be in the add or remove criteria. So it will be there in the system already. Next is updating sorting of users entities. So when the new LMS administration UI was introduced, there wasn't a lot of filters for dates, which made it difficult for searching or sorting for administrators when trying to look at data on the user record. And that feature was also available previously in the old UI. So SuccessFactors again has now made it the same as the old UI, where you can have certain dates that you can use to sort some tabs on the user record. And this is especially from feedback from most of the customers. So this universal change, if we have a look, for example, on if I try to look at the person's record in the LMS, if I go to assigned items, for example, we just expand the screen. If I click on sort, there's now assigned date and required date. So it's easier now to sort if you want to see like the latest assignments, and you can sort by assigned date in descending order. In the completed items, and this one I've used a lot as well, like searching for latest completions, quickly checking for a user, then you can also sort by the completion date now. It's available again. And if you look at assignment profiles, so here in the assignment profiles, you can also sort by date added. So that's the change that they've had for the sorting for the user entity.
Just a time check. You have 2 minutes, all right?
Yep. So next is stories in People Analytics. So this one is an admin opt-in feature where after the learning one, we'll have more discussion on the People Analytics, but basically learning data will now be available in the People Analytics, and they're going to roll out this feature starting late June 2021. So some information that can be pulled out from stories in People Analytics are, if you see here on the diagram here, like course completions based on certain users, and can be you can have different criteria, and you can create graphs. So watch this space. We're very interested as well once we get once June comes and we see how much information we can get out of these stories in People Analytics. But from this diagram here, it looks very promising and a very big change from what we're used to in terms of the out-of-the-box LMS reports. Next is we just want to mention the deprecated features in learning. So native administration learning sign-in is being deprecated. So what this is about is administrators who log in directly into the LMS. That feature will now will be deprecated on this release. So for those administrators going through BizX, that's not impacted. Deprecation of user native learning sign-in. So this is, again, just users only in the LMS. And later on, there will be a slide about this one. But BizX, users that exist in BizX and LMS will not be impacted. This is only for users that exist in the LMS only. End of development for integrated external user features. So for those who are using external sites and have integrated external users that have implemented that one, there will be an end of development. So they won't, SuccessFactors won't be developing any enhancements for this. SuccessFactors is also removing the old exam functionality and is now pushing to use the new assessments feature. And this is, there's also a tool to migrate the old exam functionality to assessments. Brands, the brand resource path will cease to exist first half next year. They're also stopping any enhancements and also association of brand with security domains. And this is mainly used for external sites. So brand association with orgs will remain, but the association with security domain will cease to exist. And then the deprecation of legacy login page for site. So just quickly going through. So what that means is for customers who use external sites where users self-register, external users self-register, or administrators create those external users directly into the LMS, and they don't have BizX or platform access. What SuccessFactors is saying is these users, the migration of these users into IaaS should start next release, which is second half of 2021. And that functionality to migrate the LMS only users into IaaS will be made available next release on second half. And the customer should start moving their LMS only users to IaaS. And they're saying first half 2022, which is next year, BizX to IaaS migration must be completed, and learning to IaaS migration must be completed, so that learning users learning-only users can still log into the LMS without any issues. So basically, they're saying first half next year, everybody should be using IAS already. So, and they obviously they have a note there that these are the dates as of now, but can change. So just for the validated customers, they're saying that the LMS IAS migration will, the date by which it should be completed will be communicated at a later time. And the LMS IAS migration tool will be made available next year, first half. Just last slide, just for those who are using external sites. So currently, this is what the login page looks like. So you'll have the username, password, and the login button. What will happen when it's when you use IAS now for external users? You'll just see this will be replaced with just a sign-in link, and you have to click on that link, and it will bring up this IAS sign-on screen. So the sign-in screen will be different, but everything else should, as we understand now, should remain the same. So now that's the end for learning. I'll hand over to Divya for stories in people analytics.
Thanks, Ryan. Very warm welcome to today's session, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see me and see my screen as well?
Yes, to all three, Divya.
Thank you. All right, I'm just gonna jump right in because I think we're short of time. So what is people analytics? You've heard SAP talk about stories, you know, the fancy reporting tool, but we thought we'd take a step back because we have a lot of our customers asking, what exactly is people analytics? Is workforce analytics a component of this suite? So very simplistically put, we've tried to outline it in this slide. So essentially, there are three components to what SuccessFactors now calls its people analytics suite. So the operational reporting aspect of it, which is all of the legacy reporting tools. And when I say legacy, I mean the ones that we're most familiar with because we've been using it, your tile, dashboard, canvas, table reports. And now in addition to that, we have stories, which is your embedded SAP Analytics Cloud your reporting tool. Stories, the reason we call that embedded is because it uses all of the amazing features and functionality that SAC, that's your SAP Analytics Cloud, which is an enterprise analytics tool, has to offer, is now available for all SuccessFactors customers. Now, I just want to call out here, when we talk stories, there is limited no scope for data aggregation and transformation from external applications. So only data that resides within SuccessFactors is available to report within stories. But the flexibility that it provides you in terms of data representation, your visualization, is something I'll demonstrate to you shortly. We're also going to run through, I think there are 6 key features that I wanted to talk through. And you'll immediately be able to see the difference between the transactional reporting tools that you run today out of SuccessFactors versus stories. Quickly touching upon the remainder of the 2 people analytics components, workforce analytics and workforce planning. Workforce planning, again, being the legacy name, SAP is now transitioning this to SAC, that's your SAP Analytics Cloud Planning, because it has the embedded version of SAC into workforce planning, so making it more versatile in that sense. So coming back to workforce analytics, it is your tool that allows for trend analysis and benchmarking. What does trend analysis mean? It is a historic view of your employee data. Say, how has your staffing rates for women progressed in correlation to the headcount over the past 5 years? Just giving you an example. When we talk workforce planning, it's how do you plan for your workforce, your headcount planning, planning ahead, projections, while keeping in mind trends that you've observed in the past. So all of them fit very well within the suite, wherein transactional reporting gives you a point-in-time analysis of your data. Moving on to key features and stories in people analytics. There are numerous. I'm a huge fan, but I thought I'll just highlight 6 features here. Linked analysis. We've had our customers and our business consumers ask about can we report, can we say, for example, the gender pay gap, which is a very, a common ask from you guys. Can we see the gender pay gap across department, division, business unit, company, across, say, managers, for example? Yes, we can. So that's what linked analysis allows you to do. It's also a very fancy drill to detail feature that I will demonstrate shortly. Explorer mode. Now, there are chart components that we put together, or let's call them charts simplistically, wherein they represent data that you feel can be shared, is consumable. But you'd also like to go in and explore by adding a few more dimensions. What I mean by that is by adding a few more data fields. What does it do to data representation? Does it make it a bit more noisy? Does it make it more simplistic to understand? Is it consumable? Like the name suggests, you can go in, throw a lot of other dimensions in the mix to understand which is the best form of representing your data. Bookmark. Now, when I go in and create a report, when I say a report, I mean a story report, which is a canvas, compilation of chart components and a point in time stats and numeric points. This view I think is consumable, and it can be shared with a type of business consumer, maybe at the exec level. However, the data that maybe your people business partners or your managers or your SMEs require, the kind of view that they require could be very different. So we can actually bookmark views and share them accordingly with people, or keep them for our personal exploration reasons. Cross-domain. Now, I know that a lot of us have struggled with this because it's been a very frequent and common ask of our customers. Are we able to combine recruiting, onboarding, and employee central data? The answer finally is yes, and it's possible through stories. Input controls. Input controls, you can also call them filters, prompts, etc. They allow you to add that additional level of filter or flexibility to your user to go in and add another dimension and say, okay, I want to look at all of this data that I have in front of me with another aspect in mind. Maybe I have, say, for example, the report that I'm going to show you shortly is position analysis. So it gives us the total number of positions, accumulated FTE, etc. But that being said, I also want to see how this varies across the gender. So I can quickly put in an input control and then see how that data dynamically, is translated to a different view. So that's your input control. Appendix. Now, I've had customers say, when we download a report, we get the data behind the chart component. However, that's not the case with stories. It is available to download in your PDF versions, which are immediately shareable to your business consumers in the format that they expected. Take a printout and quickly make it available if someone doesn't have access to a system or they need to run to a meeting. You have them in PDF as well. They download not just the data, say, behind your table views. They also can download the chart components, the actual bar graphs, and the actual trend and the correlation, all of those charts. Now, where appendix features is, I've got a sample of that as well for you. You can actually, at the last slide of your downloaded document, you will be able to see all the variables that actually have helped put together that chart, that canvas. Okay, so my transition is not as seamless as the rest of my colleagues, but okay, I've just switched to Report Center. Now, I think all of us are aware that this is, okay, let me do that, let me not assume anything. Now, Report Center is a one-stop shop for all report types in SuccessFactors. So we can actually, label them. We can label them out. So what I'm going to do right now is run a position analysis story report for you. Okay, so let's talk linked analysis. When I pick, say, for example, taking a step back, what you see in front of you is an analysis of your positions in the organization. The number of positions, the accumulated FTE, the target FTE, and various other attributes of the position that you've maintained. Now, if I pick this chart component and say, I want to see data only across this particular business unit, linked analysis will then dynamically transform all of these figures and chart components to give you data specific to people and culture. Now, if we talk Explorer mode, I'm trying to go as fast as possible to give Eddie time for his next steps. Eddie, let me know when you want me to stop.
That's fine. You got a minute there. That's all right.
Sure, thanks. With Explorer mode, now what you can see is positions per business unit, but I'd like to understand, this is not coming up, but essentially I'd like to understand the gender breakup as well, the gender ratio. And I would also like to understand position criticality in the sense of how many women versus how many men, occupy these critical positions. Okay, this is going to take a while, but essentially you can throw in multiple dimensions in the mix, and you'll be able to save this data to understand if it's consumable. So that was Explorer mode. Like I said, you can also bookmark your views. And this is the bookmark view, wherein you can save a particular view. Appendix. When I look to export a report, let's see how it looks. You'll have all the chart components, and towards the end, the last slide, you will have all the variables in there as well. I think with that, because this is taking a while, just in the interest of time, I'll just summarize. We do have a case study in the deck that I've included, so please have a read of that as well. This is data, these are claims from the customer directly who have said that they've seen significant improvement in the way they produce and run these reports itself. So with that, Eddie, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Divya. And as I bring up my screen finally, I also wanted to emphasize that the People Analytics Story platform is the reporting platform for the future from SuccessFactors. All other platforming tools, including your BERT reporter or your PRT, will be retired shortly. So in the near future, I'm not saying shortly. Talent and learning yet do not have out-of-the-box reports for People Analytics Stories, and that's why Divya showed you a few of the examples from Employee Central, but they will be there on the roadmap. Yeah, but our recommendation would be is to turn this tool on, try start using it, leveraging it. It has a tremendous amount of capabilities to give you insights into your data. Just because out-of-the-box reports don't exist right now, that doesn't stop you from building some insightful reports using your talent data, and when the learning data schema becomes available. Just checking, can you see my screen? I think
Yes, Eddie.
Yeah, so just ending up, Deloitte offers a release management offering for our customers. There are a few of our customers on the call right now who actually are with us for a period of time. But for those of you who are interested in looking at working with Deloitte and turning on these releases, this is the offering we have put together. So we take you through the business benefits and maturity of the different features and allow you to decide from a business outcomes perspective if it makes sense to turn it on. But we as consultants from the Deloitte team will take the ownership of actually configuring your test environment, provide you the necessary training, supporting you through UAT, and then turning it on your production environment as well. We cover a year's worth of content, so our offering doesn't happen twice a year. We take content from 2 releases. So for this cycle, we would take content from the last release, the second half of 2020 and the first half of 2021, and we package it together and we run it as a mini engagement where we have 4 phases from the prepare, engage, realize, and launch. So we take you through the processes of understanding the benefits of the features, and then you decide what you want to turn on, and then we take on the ownership of that. So all of this lasts between 5 to 7 weeks, depending upon the number of modules you have, and we can work with you through that. So if you're interested in getting in touch with us, when we circulate the deck and the recording, there will be the ability for you to reach out to us if you would like to have a further discussion. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I know the 1 hour passed away very quickly. Thank you to my colleagues, Josh, Kat, Shami, and Divya, and to Yvonne for helping out. Do join us for our next 2 spotlight sessions around release management. 25th of May is on recruitment and onboarding, and 27th of May around core HR. So we look forward to having you with us there. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the day and the week. Cheers.